This happened a few years ago. There was a really big sale going on at my local Best Buy. It wasn't Black Friday, but this was a really significant sale. I had planned on getting a laptop and a tablet. I headed to Best Buy that morning and tried to be one of the first ones inside the store. It was also a weekend, so the whole area was already pretty busy. The Best Buy that I lived by is in the middle of a huge shopping center. There's pretty much every store and restaurant that you can imagine, all within a few miles of each other. The Best Buy is next to a Joann fabric store and a Dick's Sporting Goods. The parking lot goes a long ways back, and at the end of it, there's some landscaping trees, a quiet back road, and then some restaurants beyond that. So I took that back road and then parked in the back of the parking lot when I saw how busy it already was. I then walked up and into the store to see that it was packed. There were people everywhere. I looked, and I saw the line to the checkout, and my jaw dropped. It was going halfway to the back of the store. I was just hoping at this point that they still had the items I wanted to buy. I made my way over there through the crowd of people, and luckily they still had them in stock. I took one in each arm and headed to the back of the line. When I got there, I waited for probably 30 to 45 minutes just in line. At last, it was my turn to pay, and after I did, I was able to leave. I had my Best Buy bag and began walking to my car in the back of the parking lot. The parking lot was pretty busy at the front, and in the back, where my car was, it was much quieter. I know that somebody had walked out of the Best Buy behind me, but obviously I thought nothing of it. When I kept walking and had made it within sight of my car, the person was still behind me. I still didn't think anything of it. When I saw my car, though, I noticed a sort of older-looking black SUV pulling into the space right across from mine. There were no other cars in the immediate area. I kept walking, and when I was probably 50 feet away, I saw two men get out of the SUV. They started kind of walking up to my car and just kind of stood there. Red flags were going off in my head. I was well aware that I had thousands of dollars worth of merchandise in my bag. I had also been holding them waiting in line for almost an hour. So many other people could have figured that out. I slowed down but kept going towards my car. When the men were not moving and blocking my doors, I figured that it wouldn't be a good idea to approach them. They were both bigger than I was, and it would be 2 against 1 if they wanted to start something. I then stopped and froze where I was. Our 2 cars were the only ones in that specific area, so it was obvious that's where I was headed. I turned around, thinking I would go back inside the Best Buy. Maybe I could tell an employee, and they could have a security guard walk me out to my car. But when I got about 2 steps closer to the store, I saw the man who had been walking behind me in the parking lot. He was just standing there, like he was waiting for me. He started walking closer. I turned and then ran to the side. I felt it was really my only option. The way that I was running was towards another quiet road in between another parking lot full of businesses. I think there was a Kohl's and a Costco. I literally sprinted over there. The one guy started sprinting after me and chased me about halfway through the Kohl's parking lot. Eventually, though, he stopped. I made it to the Kohl's and went inside. I decided that I would wait it out there. I walked around the store for a little bit, just looking at items. After probably 20 minutes being inside, I figured that the man had to have left. I left Kohl's and started walking back towards my car. But when my car was just visible enough, I saw that the SUV was still parked there. That's when I knew I had to do something. I called the police and told them what had happened. Luckily for me, there was an officer in the area. He met me outside the Kohl's within probably 2 minutes. He then gave me a ride back over to my car. When we started to approach my vehicle, big surprise, the black SUV started driving away. The officer dropped me off at my car, made sure I got inside okay, and then started flashing his lights and took off after the black SUV. I was finally able to go home safely. Shortly after I arrived home, I received a call from the police, letting me know they had caught up with the SUV. Unfortunately, they let them off with only a warning. There was really no solid proof or evidence that they were going to try to rob me, even though I was chased halfway across a parking lot. I'm just glad that I'm okay, and hopefully nothing like that happens again. My name is Michaela, and I'm 20 years old. This is the story of something creepy that happened when I went to Best Buy over a month ago. I went there one day to get 2 things. The first was a charger for my laptop, and the second was a birthday present for my younger brother. That was going to be a PlayStation 5 game, but I don't remember exactly which one it was. So when I got there, I was expecting to be really quick. I already knew where the laptop chargers were, and I knew where the video game aisle was as well. I didn't go to Best Buy that often, but I went enough to know the store setup, and I had gotten a charger there in the past. When I walked inside on this day, there was the usual employee or two who stand near the entrance. We exchanged greetings, and I started heading towards the right side of the store, where the computers were. When I was maybe 20 feet inside, I saw a guy come out from one of the aisles, and he was looking right at me. He was an employee, and he worked at Best Buy. He smiled and said hi to me, and I did the same. I did not stop walking, and I was sort of surprised to see the guy start walking alongside of me. He introduced himself to me as Mike. He looked to be around my age, maybe a little bit older, had blonde hair, and was sort of thin. As he kept up with me, he asked if he could help me find anything. I politely said, "No thanks," but then Mike asked me what it was I was looking for. This was slightly annoying, but at the same time, I didn't mind too much. I figured he was going to try and upsell me on something, but I knew exactly what I was getting, and I was sticking to it. I told him that I was there to just buy a laptop charger and a gift for my brother, but he kept up with me and walked all the way to the chargers with me. He pointed them to me as I looked for the one that I wanted. I soon found it, and then Mike said, "What else did you say you needed?" I mean, I appreciated the service, but I really didn't need or want him being my personal shopping assistant. We both walked over to the video game aisle. I looked for the game I was going to get my brother as Mike showed me a bunch of other games that he liked. Finally, when I found it, Mike told me that he would ring me up. We walked towards the front of the store, into a check lane. As Mike was ringing up the items, he asked me what I was doing later. I told him that I had plans with friends for the rest of the day, which I did. After I was finally done checking out, he handed me the items and told me to come again. I left and went on with my day. The very next day, though, I got a text message on my phone. It was from Mike, and he said so. At first, I wondered how he had gotten my number, and I realized that it must have been from the Best Buy Rewards program. When I didn't respond to his text, he sent another one later that day. I had no intentions to respond to that one either. His texts started out fairly normal, but got increasingly worse. Soon, they were almost threatening. When he started first texting, they would say things like, "Let's hang out. Did you like when I helped you at Best Buy?" And then he asked me why I wasn't responding. He even stated that he knew this was my real number. Then he said I wouldn't want to make him mad. That's when I decided to finally reply to him. I asked him to please stop texting me and said that I wasn't interested. Well, this didn't help. In fact, I think it made things worse. He started texting me things like he was going to find me and I would be sorry that I said that. I decided to block his number after that. About a day went by of nothing, and I thought that had worked. But then he found my Instagram and started messaging me there. I was so angry that I went back to the Best Buy. I didn't even care if he was working or not, but thankfully he wasn't. I went to customer service and reported him. They apologized and said that they were aware of Mike, and he had actually been fired. He was still an employee when I had shopped there and interacted with him, but he had several other complaints against him. I sent a message on Instagram threatening to get the police involved if he didn't leave me alone, and thankfully that worked. I haven't been bothered by him since. Still, I'm a little worried that he will contact me again, because it's only been like a month. A couple of weeks ago, I went shopping at Best Buy. I went there mainly to look at TVs. I didn't necessarily have intentions on buying one that day, but I was in the market to get a new one soon. Best Buy always seems to have a good selection of really cool TVs. I went there one afternoon at probably like 5 or 6 p.m. I just stopped as I was on my way home from shopping at another store. I walked over to the TVs and noticed that the store was pretty quiet. When I got to the TVs, I really enjoyed looking at all the cool ones they had. Some had curved screens and others were so big, it was incredible. I was doing my research and remembering prices of each size and model. After about 2 or 3 minutes into this, I heard somebody approaching. I didn't pay it much attention until I heard them speak, and I looked over to see who it was. I thought it would be an employee, but it wasn't. It was a man with black hair that was slicked back a little, and had a handlebar mustache. He said hi and asked me what I was looking for. The man wore a black jacket and jeans and clearly didn't work there. I said I was in the market for a new TV and just looking at the selection. I then asked if he was also looking for a new TV. The guy ignored my question and asked me which one I was thinking of buying. I told him that I had no idea and probably wouldn't get one today. The man didn't respond to me but just stood there next to me looking at the TVs. It was kind of awkward for a few seconds until I decided to move. I walked away into the next aisle where they had more TVs. I was there for no more than 30 seconds before I saw the man slowly walking into it. We both just stood there for a few moments. The guy was beginning to creep me out a little bit. I walked back out of that aisle and he did the same. He wasn't looking at me, but just kind of standing there, trailing me. I decided at that point to leave. I started walking to the front of the store, and before long, it was apparent that the other guy was doing the same. Why was he suddenly following me for some reason? I had no clue. I kept walking and made it out of the store. The man left about 5 seconds later. I started walking for my car, and I kept close attention to where the man would walk. Thankfully, I heard his footsteps moving in another direction. When I got to my car, I looked back and saw that the man had gotten in a smaller pickup truck. I sat there, waiting for the guy to leave first. His truck sat still, a decent ways down from mine. Finally, I decided to just leave, and I backed up and drove off. Before I had made it out of the parking lot, though, I saw the dreaded pickup in my rearview mirror. I was telling myself it was just a coincidence as I merged onto the road, but the truck left right after me. The drive home took about 10 minutes, and when about 5 minutes had gone by and the truck was still right behind me, I was starting to get really concerned. I kept driving back to my house, though. Soon I made it near my neighborhood. I wasn't really sure what to do. The guy was still right on my tail. When I was just 2 turns away from my street, the guy just kind of peeled off and took another turn. I couldn't believe it, but I was very relieved. I kept driving home and made it back a couple of minutes later. I haven't seen the truck or that guy since. Not really sure what his deal was or what he was doing.